What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dr. Professor Dark Joker with this week's review. And this week, I'm going to give what, in my opinion, are the top 10 films of 2025. And so, this can be, ones that were released in theaters, ones that were, direct to video, on cable, on streaming, basically all the films, amongst all the films that were able to watch this year that were released in 2025. Now, as far as release, I'm talking about like released in the United States, like American distribution. So, because sometimes you have some movies that are shown in festivals, like a year or two before the official release. Then you have some that were distributed in other countries before coming to the United States. So, so basically, it's based on American distribution. Now, the only now there is some consideration for some things like what to count. So, a compilation movie will not count towards this because that's just episodes compiled into a movie. I'm not going to count that. Otherwise, something like Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quux the beginning would have actually been included in the top 10. But since it's a compilation movie, it's not eligible. Like that's basically that's the only reason. So anyway, with all that being said, on with the video. Number 10, Not Just a Goof. So this is a documentary um about the production of a Goofy movie. Basically, it was celebrating the 30th anniversary. It was released on 30th anniversary and it was just going over the development, you know, what led to, basically how it was made, how even though it did not make a lot of money, in when it released in theaters, it is regarded as a very good movie today. And so how it is, the father son aspect of that movie goes into how it product, Eisner's role in it in the production, and basically how it all went, its legacy, how it's seen today. And yeah, I thought this was a very good documentary. Number 9, A Working Man. So this is the movie based on the novel Levin's Trade by Chuck Dixon, the famous comic book writer for for Marvel and DC back in the day. And yeah, so obviously Levin Cade, retired Royal Marines color sergeant, works as a construction foreman, helped save the daughter of his boss from some mobsters, and basically just goes on like a rampage, like he basically kills a bunch of mobsters and like say like he saves the girl and all that. It's a very well done like story regards to how develops, how he investigates, how he finds all the mobsters and all that. So it was done very well. Like I mean, it's basically how Jason Statham does a very large portion of his movies. Like just a simple man beating up some crooks. Number 8, Wick is Pain. So this is the documentary about the development of the John Wick movies. It goes to how the creators involved, you know and the actors, like how they were all made the movie, and then basically dealt the screenplay, the marketing, the popularity of the character that resulted from the first movie, and how like basically there was actually a lot of difficulties with the first movie, like in getting it made and distributed. And you have Keanu Reeves, Chad Stahelski, Basil Iwanik, David Leitch, Tiger Chin, Derek Kolstad, like goes to all stuff they did. They were interviewed, and yeah, this goes to how those movies were made, like how they became like the iconic movies that they were. So yeah, I thought this was a very well made documentary. Number seven, Elway. So this is the documentary movie that Netflix did about, you know, Denver Broncos and Stanford Cardinal quarterback John Elway. Went over his life, his struggles, in college and the NFL. Basically, and some of the stuff that happened in his personal life as a result of him playing football. And so, yeah, this was a very well-made documentary about Elway, and the people interviewed did a very good job being interviewed, and basically as a sports fan, I enjoyed seeing basically them going over John Elway's career and his life. Number six, Last Breath. So this is based on the real life story about Chris Lemons, Duncan Alcock, David Yuasa, who were saturation divers in the North Sea. Basically, basically it went wrong. So like Lemons gets stranded, like, and he's about to, but he gets unconscious. So like his somehow the way his conscious is, he survives longer than he should have without oxygen. And so it goes over how like they were able to like how Lemons was saved by his coworkers, and basically RP on the ship, and yeah, it goes through like the whole process. So yeah, I thought it was really good survival story. Like, and basically like the visuals for the underwater sections, and then like the acting was pretty good. Woody Harrelson was great in this. So yeah, I thought it was a really good movie. Number five, Not Without Hope. So this was a movie that released this year. About the wreck that killed NFL players Marquise Cooper, Corey Smith, along with the former college player Will Bleakley from USF, and the only survivor Nick Schuler, played by Zachary Levi. And basically the rescue efforts and like how the struggle like Schuler and his friends had with surviving after their fishing boat like basically flipped over during the storm. We had all these big waves, and how like the three who sadly passed away, they died of hypothermia. And so yeah, real life story, great movie. Like, hasn't really gotten a lot of attention, but it was a good movie, and I think it's definitely in the top five of this year. Number four, Becoming Led Zeppelin. So this is the documentary about the early years of Led Zeppelin. And, basically, the surviving band members, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Robert Plant are interviewed. You hear some archival audio from John Bonham, but of course he sadly passed away in 1980. So obviously he wasn't around to do the interviews. But this goes to like how basically how they became one of the biggest bands in the world. Like so show some of the footage of their early years. Basically like when they were starting out, and how like basically they were under a different name for a while because they were called the Yardbirds, but due to like basically due to like reasons, like they had to change names. And of course this goes to like how this led to them, all the events, all the touring led to them becoming one of the biggest bands in the world, because they are one of the best rock bands ever. They are a great rock band from the UK, and this focused on their music as it should have. And this was a very good documentary, in my opinion. Number three, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. So yeah, this was a movie that definitely went under the radar. So this movie was, so as far as its release, it released at Aneki in 2024, but it didn't release to the United States until 2025. Basically, it was released in festival because they were trying to get it was for Oscar eligibility, but they didn't release it in the U.S. Which mm, and there was also the issue of Ketchup Entertainment bought the North American distribution rights due to and basically there were some issues because basically David Zaslav does not respect Looney Tunes at all. He doesn't. So Aneki, then some basically some Los Angeles screenings, for Oscar voters. Basically, they did some limited release thing to try to get basically an Oscar only viewership in order to get eligible for the best animated feature film. But it didn't even get nominated. And it's basically there's what do you think? David Zaslav just everyone know he very famously does not respect Looney Tunes. He removed Looney Tunes from HBO Max. Like that freaking retard. Anyway, as far as of course, this about Porky Pig, Daffy Duck. They basically there's issue with an alien using gum to try to brainwash people, and they try to get jobs in order to fix their fix their house so they can basically keep it and not get kicked out. And then Porky falls for Petunia Pig. Then three of them team up against gum, the gum zombies. Of course, real the alien was trying to. The reason he was doing it was to help stop an asteroid from destroying Earth, so he could keep drinking boba tea. And they all work together to destroy the asteroid, save the day. Yeah, we those who watch this knows. And basically, this was a very good movie. Did not do well in the box office, unfortunately. I mean, I understand, but I mean, this was Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is a franchise you would think would do very well in the box office. Unfortunately, the marketing was done very poorly. If I didn't see it, if I didn't see that it was coming out, I wouldn't have known it existed because the marketing was basically there was solo marketing. I basically came across it. I was like, oh wait, there's a Looney Tunes movie. The frick! When I saw movies list of movies coming out. Basically, unless you're looking at a list of movies coming out and don't see trailers or anything, you're not gonna know that you wouldn't people wouldn't know that this came out. And it was very good. And really, it deserves a lot of award nominations, but it didn't get any. And a lot of it comes down to Zaslav being an idiot because we know Cowboy versus Acme also got bought, distribution rights got bought out by Ketchup too. Hopefully that does better. But yeah, I thought this was a very good movie. Number two, Truth and Treason. So this was the biopic that Angel Studios made about Helmut Hubener, the Mormon resistance fighter in Germany who handed out who basically put leaflets around trying to expose Adolf Hitler's lies. Of course, was executed. A very good biopic. This was a very good biopic. In my opinion, it's the best Angel Studios movie I've seen. Like, and Ewan Horrocks, in my opinion, deserves you know, at minimum a nomination for Best Actor. I don't think he'll get it, but in my opinion, he should win Best Actor, but he won't. And Rupert Evans, played you know, basically the SS officer Erwin Mussener did a very good job. Like very good job. Should also, in my opinion, deserve the Best Supporting Actor. Basically, very good acting, very good score, very good writing, and yet there it got expanded into a TV show on on Angel Studios' streaming service. And yeah, I haven't seen the TV show version because basically I'm don't want to pay for Angel Studios' app. Anyway, but I thought this was a very good movie. Sadly, it didn't make a lot of money in the box office. Like it only made like 6 million, and definitely that's definitely a flop. Like it sucked, but like it sucked, but like I thought this was a really good movie. Number one, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle: The Return of Akaza. So yeah, so this was definitely the best movie of the year. This was my most anticipated movie coming into 2025 because I've read the manga, so I knew how I knew how Demon Slayer ended, and so I guess of which fights they were doing, and so they did in this portion of the arc they covered the Zenitsu versus Kaigaku fight, Shinobu versus Doma, and Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza. And it'll cover those fights. So parts 2 and 3 will cover the rest of the fights. And so yeah, you see like also different fights, the flashbacks to you see Akaza's big flashback to his past with his wife and how he was as a martial artist before he became a demon. And you have Kaigaku basically getting killed by Zenitsu. Use like a new breathing form he taught himself. And you have of course Shinobu getting eaten by Doma. And of course basically do some setup for the rest of the fights. And yeah, the visuals, the animation, the music, the story done very well. Like very well, and like was number one in the box office for multiple weeks. Like it made like basically at the time recording this 780 million at the box office with a $20 million budget. Like very famously past Superman and Fantastic Four first steps in the box office. Like for this year, like basically that was a big deal, and like basically because like Demon Slayer's generally had a lot of success in box office, and people remember when Demon Slayer Mugen Train released in the United States theaters the same weekend as Mortal Kombat, the whole battle between them, where basically the only reason Mortal Kombat made more money that first weekend was because Demon Slayer was released in like around half as many theaters. So per theater, Demon Slayer was destroying Mortal Kombat, and but it barely got second place. Like Mortal Kombat barely beat Demon Slayer that first week. And so when this was released, people knew this could do very well. And it did. It did very well in the box office. People fans of the series really like it. Now, yes, people who have not watched Demon Slayer or have read Demon Slayer may not be as fans of this movie due to the fact, yes, you do have to watch the anime to understand this movie. And the thing is, that was kind of how it was marketed. Everyone knew that, so that's just how it was. But yeah, this was like the best movie of the year, and like when parts 2 and 3 come out, like whichever years they are, like things believed to be 2027, 2029, respectively. What a lot of people are thinking. You know, those will be highly anticipated. And yeah, yeah. This movie was the best movie of the year. So for 3 years in a row, the best movie of the year, in my opinion, has come from Japan. 2023 with Godzilla Minus One, 2024 with Spy Family Code White, when you base off a U.S. release. And when you base on initial release date, 2024, best movie was My Hero Academia. You're next. Anyway, but with but so for 3 years in a row, Japan has had the best movie of the year, in my opinion. Like Hollywood needs to step up. Like you're being outdone by Japan and by Korea to a lesser extent. But some television stuff. Like, come on, like Hollywood needs to step up. Like American studios outside Hollywood need to step up. Like this just shows how bad Hollywood's got. So a bunch of smaller movies are like the better movies. Like some that are kind of under the radar, whether it's on streaming or or theatrical, where a bunch of small movies seem to have been the best of the year. That in Hollywood, which has been seen as the gold standard for a long time, they've not done well. That's on them. So yeah, Demon Slayer deservedly is the best movie of the year. And that's it. Did y'all like this video? Did you dislike this video? Do you agree with my top 10? Do you have your own top 10? You can put all that stuff in the comments. And yeah, it's weird. It seems like a lot of smaller movies have just been the best movies of the year. Like, movies that Hollywood either didn't promote a lot or weren't really involved with. And and that shows that Hollywood needs to step up. Like, basically there have been a few decent movies from Hollywood. There have been some good ones. They need to step up. Like, but the fact that Hollywood movies are not like the best ones of the year means that Hollywood needs to step up. They used to be the gold standard. Standard, it's on them for not being as good. Next year it looks like with all the movies coming out and television shows like from America, Japan, probably some from outside of those two countries. It's gonna be the biggest. It's gonna be the biggest year in entertainment since 2019, and hopefully it delivers. So yeah, you know, yeah, hopefully all those movies deliver. Hopefully it'll be a good year in entertainment because I want to have a I want to have a very good year in entertainment. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Look forward to the next video.